guys went to boarding school, you could go to the same boarding school, and then that would help your messed up parents figure stuff out better.
Yeah, you can go to the isolation boarding school, get your act together, come home, and be nice, lovely angel children. While Dad hangs out with stepmom.
Hi, Rogue.
Hi, Zax.
Hi, Carina.
Hey, Zax. Hey, Rogue.
Hey, Carina.
Hello, audience.
This is gonna be a fun one today because we're diving into the 1961 and the 1998 Parent Trap. So hopefully you guys have already seen both because we just have a lot to say about the implications of both of these movies. So I think we should start off with the biggest deal of it all, the isolation cabin.
I don't know if I would call it the biggest deal, but it's definitely the first deal.
Yeah, it's the first instance where you're watching the movie and you're like, ooh, something doesn't seem right here.
Which I don't think it really hit me when I was a kid watching it over and over. Like, I ran that VHS to the ground. But it didn't hit me how messed up this is. Now, in the original one, they ruin the school dance with shenanigans and get banished to the isolation cabin. In the 1998 one, they prank each other really hard and, like, ruin their cabin with, like, shaving cream and chocolate. It's a whole mess.
And honey and feathers. Yeah. It's a whole fiasco. But then the counselors get involved and they get chocolate sauce dumped on them. And then they're like, that was
the real issue. Yeah.
Which, like, okay, I feel like punishment enough is you need to clean all this up.
Right?
One thing I do want to point out, though, they were doing, like, really crazy pranks before, like, they broke in and, like, ruined the cabin. They somehow, like, I can't remember which twin it was. This is in the 98 version. They somehow get, like, the beds and, like, all of the furniture out of the cabin and onto the roof. And they're all, like, scrawny little 11-year-olds. Like, how'd they do that?
Yeah, that seems really messed up. And then, like, I guess this is lower scale as far as the pranks, but then they made the British twin be naked because they stole all her clothes after daring her to go in the thing.
Which was a nightmare as a child. I was like, oh my god, I hope this doesn't happen to me when I go to camp. And then nothing of the sort happened.
One thing I really like in the 98 one, though, is, like, yes, they didn't get along, but even though they were banished to the isolation cabin and whatnot, it did seem like they were having fun with this rivalry that they had going. Like, it's like, I hate you, but, like, secretly I respect you, but, like, I'm not going to tell anybody.
And then they bond over Oreos and peanut butter, and to this day, my sisters still eat Oreos and peanut butter because of Parent Trap.
You know, I could never bring myself to try it.
Why not?
I didn't want those two things to collide.
It's an interesting combination.
It's chocolate and peanut butter. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I don't know. I feel like an Oreo has a lot going on by itself. I don't need to complicate that.
It's not something that you'd eat on the regular. It's like, I feel like having, you're like, I feel like treating myself because I was working hard today, doing nothing because social isolation. Oh my god, we're all in the the isolation cabin right now. Oh my god.
It's real.
Oh no, guys.
Yeah. So but in the 1961, I wrote a note, there's a lot more physical violence because, like, the shenanigan that brings them into the isolation cabin is that they make a big mess because they're straight up slap fighting right now. Smack across the face. This is what we're doing now. And they're, like, on the floor and they're, like, they're trying to destroy each other.
Oh, Lord. They kind of did that when they're, like, fencing in the 98 version, but, like, they're not, like, just pimp slapping each other.
Gear on. But yeah, so, and also before we continue this rant, I think we should just get this elephant out of the room. I guess we need to pretend that it's not the weirdest thing to run into your amazing doppelganger. Yeah. That's
your
not
identical twin. that you've never met.
So they pull these pranks and they cause these shenanigans, and the solution is that the whole camp marches these girls out miles away to wherever, to this cabin that leaks, because for the rest of their stay, whenever it rains, they're filling up buckets with rainwater. How's that up to code?
Like the haunted cabin that like, oh, in 43, a girl died in there and we're going to put these kids... Like, that doesn't happen in the movie, but it's that type of cabin.
Yeah. And one more thing, when they go to eat, they have to sit at a booth also marked isolation table.
This movie promotes segregation.
That... Oh my gosh. That would be so... That's like so unethical.
You inconvenienced the counselors.
So now they gotta
instead of making you clean up the mess, you are not allowed to speak to any other campers.
Can you
ever
imagine
again?
Too, what do they use this for normally? Because they got into trouble together. If someone gets into trouble by themselves, is it seriously just like solitary confinement?
Like you have committed sin in an Amish community and you're being shunned by your peers and family?
The only thing I can, which doesn't really help because I still don't like the punishment period, but the only thing I can think is maybe the isolation cabin is specifically for when like two campers don't get along, that we're gonna put them here. Because like in the 1961, she says, you guys are either going to learn to get along with each other or you're going to be punished far worse than I could to you.
What? Is that a threat? Did she just threaten children?
She basically just said, okay, we're torturing you guys psychologically right now. Goodbye.
See ya.
They don't... And like, okay, here's another thing. You send your kid... Now, both parents in both movies were kind of reluctant to even send their kid to camp in the first place. For 8 weeks. That's basically summer.
Yeah, the whole summer.
Now, for half of that time, for 4 weeks, you find out your kid was just locked in a cabin.
Like, imagine this. You're either a 60s housewife or you're a 90s housewife. And you have paid, like... How much would camp be in, like, those days? Like, pretty expensive, right? So you pay for this hoity-toity summer camp, and you're like, all right, go have fun learning to canoe and crochet. I'm going to stay here and drink martinis all day because I'm a housewife. And then your kid comes home, and you're like, how was camp, darling? And they're like, well, the first half was great, but then I was stuck in a leaky old cabin for the rest of it and shunned from my peers, and I could not... talk to anybody. You'd be pissed as the parent.
I don't know. I think also, in the 60s, they'd be like, you're just exaggerating.
You probably deserved it.
Like, they'd say, like, what did you do? Yeah. In the 60s,
yeah,
for sure.
People didn't like their kids back then.
But in both movies, they are super rich parents.
Yeah, they're both.
Respectively. Especially, I don't really know what she does. I don't remember what she does in the 60s one. But in the 98, she's a famous wedding dress designer. So, lot of money. He runs the vineyard or whatever, lot of money. And he's in California, which is one of the craziest legal crazy places in the world. Like he's not suing that camp to filth. Right?
He's going to ruin their business.
He will destroy them from within.
Absolutely. Where is this camp even? Because, like, both, like, I can't, is it Hallie is the one from California?
They both fly.
Yeah, they both fly in. But, like, where's the camp located? What state is it in? It's, like, I feel like it's, like, either just, like, right in the middle. You know what? I'm saying this as somebody who doesn't live in the U.S. I don't know where anything is. I was going to say Delaware, but I don't know what Delaware looks like.
Well, apparently, Camp Walden, according to BuzzFeed, 29 things you probably didn't know about the Parent Trap. Camp Walden is based on...
I'm citing your source.
Very reliable.
You know, we keep our tea factual here on Kind of Friends. Okay, so Camp Walden is based on an existing camp for girls in Denmark, Maine. So I guess they're in Maine.
Okay. I don't know what there is to do in Maine. I guess go camping.
Yeah, I guess. But this is one thing that is like, okay, so I guess it's weird. I have so many mixed feelings on this. So in both, it's a British twin and an American twin. Mm-hmm. But in the 60s version, British twin lives in Boston with her family, and it's still California for the American twin.
Okay.
In the 98 one, British twin lives in the UK, American twin lives in California.
Respectively.
So, I go back and forth on this because I think it's weird that British twin lives in Boston. But at the same time, isn't it weirder that UK twin goes all the way to Maine to go to camp?
That's really good to camp.
Is it
they're like neglecting and endangering their campers with this horrible isolation cabin? They're gonna have tetanus when they leave camp because they're gonna step on a rusty nail.
I think even worse than like the fact that they have to go spend 4 weeks in this isolation cabin, what's worse than that is that the whole town, all the girls camping here, march along whistling tunes as they ship you off to exile. Which is
like you're a troop in Vietnam going up the hill just to be told you're going right back down. It's a nightmare situation.
And it especially bothers me because both girls have made their little group of friends. They have their own respective girl squads who are joining in the marching off. It's not like they're like, oh man, we miss you. You helped. You assisted in all these crimes.
Did they just get away with it? Are there other isolation cabins that they were all plunked in?
The only justification would be if, like, okay, these girls are getting banished, but you girls also aren't innocent in this, so you have to clean up the cabin. And then they're like, oh, well, I don't care about the twins anymore. But even that's such a stretch.
It's just, the management of this camp just seems like a nightmare. In the comments, who has worse camp management? Camp Walden for girls or Camp Rock? They're both pretty on par, I bet.
I guess, you know what, I'd have to say Camp Rock has worse management. Mm-hmm. He waited till the last second to secure catering. he waited till the day of to make sure his campers were fed.
Oh, I thought that we were just going to eat grass the whole time, but don't worry, everybody. We got Demi Lovato's mom coming to make mac and cheese for us.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is, because this is like a really small bit, I think, of both the movies, but like, unnecessary step-parent stigma. Like, kids are already apprehensive enough about having step-parents. Do we really need them to worry about the Vickies or what's her name
Meredith.
In the 98 one? Meredith, right?
Fun fact.
I just remember because they always call her Cruella. Yeah. So I was trying to think what her real name was.
Fun fact, though, in the 98 version, the actress who plays Meredith's mother is Vicky. I think that's the name of the stepmom in the 60s version, right?
She is, yes.
Same person.
She is Vicky.
Isn't that fun?
She is. And her name is Vicky in that.
Vicky. Yeah. So is it the same universe?
Shared universe?
Yeah. Are there two twins? Is Meredith one of the twins? And she just like changed her name and was like, this was such a traumatic incident for me, and like just distanced herself. I don't know. That'd be interesting. If they're gonna make a remake, I know what they can do. And it's Lindsay Lohan, and she's the new mom.
Oh my gosh. I wonder who she married. You know what's funny though? Like with the original series, they made like so many sequels, and in one of them, Haley Mills, who plays the original twins, in one of them, I remember this was so sad. This was like when my dad like was learning to record things on TV. And so he just like looked on like what it said was coming on. Like this is like before DVR, but we got the guide so you could know what was coming on, but you couldn't record any of it yet. So he recorded, it said Parent Trap, but this was like one of the Parent Traps. And in this one, Hayley Mills, these British twins or whatever, they're grown women. But they've been like divorced. One of them, I think the American one, had a daughter. And this daughter meets a girl at school who does not look like her. But they really want to be stepsisters. So they get other sister, grown woman aunt, to come in and date this guy as the girl's mom.
This sounds like a disaster.
It was, and I just remembered watching this one because and I saw this one before I saw the original 60 version, so I just was like, why did they make a sequel to the Lindsay Lohan movie in the 60s or 80s or whatever this was?
Oh my.
Anyway, back to step parent stigma. So like they make Meredith and Vicky seem like this young gold digger. But like, is she really? Because like in both, she's a career woman.
Yeah.
But she wants
like
more
for sure
money.
in the 98. But like, cause really, she's a publicist. She can't just date a barista. Not knocking barista. I'm just saying like, she needs to date another socialite.
So she's like,
And
let's just go after this like guy who owns a vineyard. I love wine.
And
Let's go for it.
And Dennis Quaid isn't ugly. Like, he's a handsome man with money. She's a beautiful woman with her own money. They could just have more money together.
Jax, you don't get it. The step parent is always evil. Always.
Yeah, exactly.
No exceptions.
I remember one of my issues as I got older, I realized that's unfair. They were like, oh, she's not a good match for dad because she doesn't like hiking. Like,
So?
that's so rude for
She's a
people who just
publicist.
aren't outdoors people.
What's also weird about that too, though, is in both movies, the bio mom also does not like camping. It's just the dad and the girls. But it's, yeah. I guess it's just weird because, like, everything that, like, I just, like, refreshed on both of them. But in both of them, the stepmom, she's always really nice to the girls until they start calling her too young and implying that she's a gold digger, and then she's like, look, I tried to be nice or whatever, but I'm marrying your dad.
Yeah, it's like, listen, there's nothing you can do that's gonna split us up. And then they're like, bet, watch this. And then they ruin her life.
And then, but then here's, in the 60s one, it gets a little, I was like, okay, Vicky, I was kind of like, sort of with you at first, but not really. Because they always make sure that it's not like, that it's very clear who we're supposed to root for. So both women, in both movies, they say, like, the first thing I'm doing is shipping him off to boarding school. But I don't think, like, really everything else we see the character do, I don't think she would.
Yeah.
Like, they just say that so that we know she's evil. But it's like, well, I don't want them to go to boarding school. But, like, honestly, realistically, well, we'll get more into this later, but maybe if you guys went to boarding school, you could go to the same boarding school, and then that would help your messed up parents figure stuff out better.
Yeah, you can go to the isolation boarding school, get your acts together, come home, and be nice, lovely angel children. While dad hangs out with stepmom.
So, then, but when she's talking with the girls, it's like a nice hard heart. But in the 60s one, she's like, you know, I have been searching for so long for a man who's like charming, fun to be around, and I've found that with your father. He's so passionate, and like, but while she gushes on this man for like quite some time,
To the children?
which I will say to the girl, because after Dennis Quaid / Dad in the 60s one tells her, she freaks out and storms off, and then the stepmom's like, look, I'll handle this.
I'm woman to woman.
Yeah, and in the 60s one, they actually spend a lot more time on this conversation than they do in the 90s one, which is kind of interesting. But she comes in and she's like, I'm sorry. He must have said it like in a horrible way. Men are terrible at explaining things. Let's talk lady to lady.
Excellent. I love Vicky already.
So then she gushes on this guy and how much he loves him. And then
he really said not all men.
Then British twin posing as American twin is like, really? Most women just want dad because he's wealthy. And she's like, okay.
It's like, all right, and I knew that.
So then she says, like, look, I'm marrying your father whether you like it or not. And then she's like, you want to bet? And then Vicky turns around and she's like, don't challenge the big girls. You won't like it, or so. I forget. I meant to write down what she said, but it was like a little threatening, and I was kind of with you. But this is still this is a preteen girl who's like not ready to share her dad yet. So dial it back a bit. She just found here, and okay, I have more to say about that whole situation, but we'll get to that with part 4.
This movie makes, like, young children see, like, independent business women who, like, are young and are like, oh, yeah, like, I did this all by myself. They see them and they're like, you're gonna ruin my parents' marriage. Even though my parents got divorced, like, 11 years ago. They haven't seen each other since. I don't like you, young, independent business lady. This movie is not very feminist, and therefore I cannot enjoy it as much. I'm kidding. This movie is still very dear to my heart. It is a classic road trip movie.
You couldn't even finish that joke.
I'm like, funny. You know what? I can't. Like, just little baby Lindsay Lohan really has a place in my heart.
It's just so good.
Grown-up Lindsay Lohan, though. Ugh.
Well, we forget about that phase.
I know who killed me. We'll put that on the list of movies we need to break down.
We are going to do pretty much if Lindsay Lohan has been in it, figure there will be a deep dish about it soon to follow.
Oh, how are we going to fit Lindsay Lohan into the Alex versus Henry Discord?
Maybe she'll be like the underdog hero.
Oh no, that's up for discussion later.
Can we have a Lindsay Lohan deep dish month?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, it's been decided.
Well, maybe this will be the start of Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just save this video. Okay, so next up we'll do the Freaky Fridays, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so, but you said something a while back, but it segues into our third point, which is that this movie creates a really unrealistic idea of divorce for children. And before we discuss, I wrote a bunch of quotes that I feel like set the tone nicely. So this is a quote from the 1961. Boston Twin says, secretly in their innermost hearts, they must still be in love with each other. Cali Twin says, then why have they stayed separated all these years? Boston Twin says, because that's how true love creates its beautiful agony.
Whoa.
No.
Yeah, I wrote that down word for word.
Like, I feel, okay, I'm gonna paint a scenario, okay? You know when you're like, I'm over him, and then like after months of being like, I don't need him, he's a loser, and I'm like the best, and then you see him again and you're like, oh no. That usually happens within the span of months. These two have been divorced for 10 plus years. I think they've gotten over it by now.
No.
Okay.
That's not how true love creates its beautiful agony.
They got married and divorced in the same year. It's not true love. They were married for less than 12 months.
I have a little story about how Parent Trap ruined my life,
Your marriage?
sort of,
Your
but
life?
not really. But not, yeah. So here's what happened. So the Parent Trap taught me that if I need to get two people together, I can just make it happen. So I have a grandma who is single, and she was single for as long as I knew her. My grandma. Now, we had a family friend that I just started calling Grandpa. He's not really my grandpa, but he is because I call him Grandpa. One day, I was like maybe 7. They'd never been together in the same place. So I took my grandpa's hand and I brought him to my grandma and I said, "Here is your husband." And they both just laughed and hugged me, and they continued on with their days, and I don't think they ever talked again.
Okay, to be fair though, you didn't try anything that the Parent Trap tried.
That was your only attempt, Zach.
You didn't try to recreate any cute date or how they met.
You didn't rent a boat and hire your twin sister's butler and your aunt, whose name I thought my entire life was Jessie, and everybody was just saying her name wrong, and the director was like, "Keep it in, it's fine." But no, her name is Chessie with a CH. Horrible name. You didn't do that, Zach.
Well, okay, so part 2 of my problem with this is that it taught me that if I'm not wealthy with an abundance of resources and adults at my beck and call, I can't get people together.
Alright, well that part's true though.
What about all like the poor kids watching this who now think that if only they had more money, their parents would still be together? Was that teach anybody?
Then mom and dad will get back together.
They've only had a butler and a nanny maid
and a twin sister.
Yeah.
And a secret twin sister. That was. I guess I needed a secret. I needed a secret twin granddaughter somehow.
Like, just to touch really quick on the unrealistic idea of divorce for children. I can't remember which video we, like, touched on this. I feel like it was the LOL video. Card in the corner. We always bring this up, and by we, I mean just me. By, like, the whole, like, plots in, like, teen movies or, like, shows or just young people media in general, the will they, won't they of divorce. It's like, oh, but I still love him. You signed the papers. You hired a lawyer. It took you like a year plus to probably like get everything settled. And now you're having second thoughts. That's not how it works in real life.
Yeah, I don't understand that logic at all. Like it's weird because it's not like I'm like saying like you can't disrespect the sanctity of marriage or anything. Mm-hmm. But like when you get married to someone, it's because like I am so sure that you are it for me. But then if you get divorced, it's like, oop, I was wrong about that. But I don't think you can go back again.
So okay, and I have to say, some rare occasions I think it does happen. But like rare occasions. And then sometimes I think it happens when it shouldn't. Like, obviously you still don't work together. But
yeah, I guess, yeah, like, and I agree with you because I do think that people do. I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in real life. I'm just saying that I feel like if you went through all this, maybe you should take some more time before we jump back in.
Right.
Maybe just don't get married.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say maybe just don't jump back in just, at all.
Like,
but
be common law. So, like, it's not a big deal if you split up. Like, sure, like, you've got, like, the house and like all this other stuff, but you don't have to go through any like divorce court stuff. You can just be like, all right, I'll get the kids on weekends. We see ya, and then that's it. Right? That's how common law separation works, right? I know this is an unmarried 22-year-old.
Yeah. So basically, real quick, if you're dealing with a divorce of your own, I am so sorry. But maybe it's for the best. And if you're a kid and you don't have a twin, I'm sorry.
If you're I'm gonna step in now. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. Dump him. Dump him, queen. You deserve better.
So now, with all that being said, it's time for us to get into the real meaning behind this deep dish. We're going to talk about part 4, which is that these two people in both movies are by far the absolute worst parents in the history of the world. Well, okay, maybe not the history of the world, but they're pretty bad. they're pretty close. And I got some quotes that I copied before we get in. So, these are both from the 1961. And when American twin in Boston comes out to the mom first, and then they go to meet the dad. But when she is telling her mom that she switched places with her sister, she says, "I wonder if you could learn to love me as me and not as Sharon."
Well, that's sad.
Now, Callie's sister, when they're talking about how, well, it'll probably be 6 months. Well, no, this is the same twin. And she's explaining that the mother is explaining to her that I took a twin, he took a twin, and we went places. She says, "His and hers makes me feel like a bathroom towel."
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
this movie.
I think even when I saw this movie, however, I don't think I saw it when it first came out, but however old I was when I saw this movie, I feel like I knew that's really messed up that they split up and they split the twins.
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was when I started to consider how weird it was. I know when I first was watching it, I was just like, because I was following them. I was like, yeah, we need to get our parents back together. Let's do this thing. I wasn't thinking about like, just how awful a situation this is.
Like, this is coming from somebody who does not have a twin, but Vanessa, my sister, is best friends with a pair of twins. These two twins are now like 19 years old. They like do literally everything together. They are in the same college. They do the same program. They were roommates. Oh my God, they were roommates.
Isolation cabin.
Like their bond is like, I'm crossing my fingers right now so you can like understand how close they are. They're like this. They're like, just the bond between twins is something that I don't think anybody can understand. Now imagine you have a twin and you didn't know, and you just feel like, something's missing, and you can't put your finger on it, and then you meet your twin, you're like, oh my God, my whole life up until this point has been a lie. That's traumatizing. That's awful.
Here's something that both movies dodge, and maybe you guys figured it out. What have these people been telling their daughters when they ask about their other parent?
No, I thought about that too.
Because they don't seem to think they're divorced, and they don't seem to think they're dead.
Well, like,
they just don't
in
know.
the 1998 version, like Hanny and Allie, they're like, oh, there's just one picture of my parent, and like it's split right down the middle, and then there's this big dramatic reveal where they put them together, and they're like, oh my God, that's them. So I don't know, like, I can't remember exactly what they're told, but like they know that like the other parent is out there somewhere. They know that they exist for sure.
They do know that. Okay, I was under the impression that they did not, but okay, that's, I guess, is that good? That's not better. You know, honestly, like, either way, once I find out, I'm really upset with you. Way more upset than any of these girls were.
But they seem pretty chill about the whole
thing.
What,
if he's out there, because that's one thing though. Because like when she, like, I do remember in like the 98 and like in this one, it's like it's not like whenever they ask about them, they like vilify the other person. So it's not like it's not like the British girl thinks she has like a deadbeat dad, and the other one thinks she has like a crazy wilding out mom or anything. They just are like, we didn't work out, and we're not getting along, and they want nothing to do with you. That's the tea, I guess. Like
yeah, like Dad's just like living his life in California. He wanted nothing to do with you though, so like I got to keep you. Like that, in a way, that is vilifying the other parent. It's not directly being like, oh, your dad like is a deadbeat and left you. It's just, oh, well, like he's living we went our separate ways. It's like, all right, then we're like, who decide? How do you get to that decision of who got me? And it's like, oh,
is it vilifying the other person, or is it just the truth?
I get, like, yeah, how did they make that decision when they were, like, little babies? Were they like, okay, I'm gonna cover my eyes, whoever my finger lands on, I'm taking Hallie, see ya.
That's something that's weird, too. Because, and, like, in both, the breakup that, like, ended it seems to be, like, it was a very heat of the moment. Because in the 98 one... she threw a hairdryer at Dennis Quaid.
Very abusive.
Popped out.
Awful. If your partner does that, leave immediately.
Well, hold on to abuse, because I'm going to get to the 60s one in a second.
Oh no.
But, so I think she throws a hairdryer at him, and this is just context clues I'm gathering. She throws a hairdryer at him, grabs a baby, and bumps out. And that's who her daughter is.
Well, I don't know if that last bit happens. I think they just like had that big fight with the hairdryer, and then they're like, "That's it, I'm done." And then they did their whole divorce court thing.
Well,
did the courts allow this?
That's what I was gonna say. Was the custody hearing like? All right, you each get one.
Right, who's getting, did they show up to court one day and they're like, all right, everybody, let's get started. So we've gone over everything. You get 50% of his earnings, da-da-da-da. Is there anything? Oh, yeah, we need to discuss the custody of your kids. Did you decide which parent is getting the twins? Oh, don't worry. We're going to split them up.
This is like a King Solomon thing, I think.
It's so terrible.
That is interesting. I wonder if they're in agreement. Like, if they decide beforehand, like I'm gonna take Annie, you get Hallie, bye, and they tell the judge, and he's like, all right. I mean, the point is they don't want people like fighting over the children, and like if you're gonna be continents apart, then
I just thought of something. I thought of something really sinister. What if, like, they didn't, like, go through the courts with this? They just, like, went their separate ways and was like, I'm taking this kid, I'm taking that kid. These parents are now involved in international child kidnapping.
Well...
like, even if it's your own kid, if you take them out of the country away from their other parent without, like, notifying a bunch of people, that's legally kidnapping. Or, like, something along those lines.
Not that these are the most honest parents in the world, but in both movies, the mom does say, legally you belong to your father and the other one belongs to me.
That is...
So they do say that that's legally the case.
This is a legal nightmare.
This is... I guess it's not even so... Let's just talk about this. Not only are they're having their children basically born into this big old lie. Look at all the people that they got in on this. Chessie, when in the 98 one, she's like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were. And then she's like, who? And she like has to stop because it's this big secret.
Because I'm Annie, and then she's British again, and you're like, oh my god. And then she cries, and like, okay, I will say though, when Chessie realizes that like Hallie, wink wink nudge nudge, is actually Annie, and she's like, oh, this is Hallie, I've known her like her whole life, and then she goes over like when she was born in the hospital and like gives her exact measurements. I'm like, oh, she loves you. You know what? Chessie should have gotten custody. I'm going to say it right there, because these two parents are totally irresponsible. They are stupid. Chessie should have gotten custody of both girls. She would have made an excellent mother figure. Send tweet.
It's also weird too because like neither of these parents go real quick going back to the whole stepmother thing, like I'm gonna send them off to boarding school. You're not gonna be seeing much of these kids at all. They barely see enough of their bio parents. Like in 98, when she goes to the UK, she's like, oh, I gotta run to work real quick. And she's like, can I go with you? And she's like, what? Really? Like, that doesn't happen. We, like, never see each other. Okay. Like, let's address, she made a secret handshake with her butler. That's her friend. Her grandpa is her friend. She doesn't know this woman. Annie doesn't know her mother. And Hallie is getting probably more quality time than Annie ever has with all her lessons and refinery life. Dad's always in the vineyard, so she has Chessie and Max to hang out with.
Oh, okay. One thing I will say about the 98 version that I'm like, ooh, that's a good little, like, good filmmaking there. When Annie, who is pretending to be Hallie, shows up at the nice vineyard home, and she's like, oh, my dog, Sammy, I remember you because I grew up with you, because you're my dog, because I'm Hallie, wink. And Sammy's like, I think not. And he's like barking at her and he's aggressive. I'm like, ooh, he knows because he's a dog. And if I've known anything from movies, dogs know everything.
They really do.
But it's like realistically, it's like, oh, you don't smell like her. I don't know who you are. And it's tripping me out that you look the same.
And now, and I guess we should talk about these parents as a couple. So before I get into the abuse of 1961, I will say I appreciate how much they watered it down in the 98 version because when they see each other, they just sort of get along right away and they're just sort of vibing together. And it's like, yeah, why did you two split up? It doesn't seem like you have a problem. In the 60s, it's no question to me why they didn't work out. So, like the Lindsay Lohan one, they bring the mom in. They don't tell mom that dad is engaged. And they don't tell dad that mom's coming. So in the 60s, mom goes up with the girls and she showers and she puts on his bathrobe to, like, I guess to get comfortable.
That's a little scandalous for a Disney movie.
Well, then it gets a little bit more scandalous, actually. Oh. So I was surprised they made these jokes, but then I was like, maybe not in the 60s. But anyway, okay, so Dad finally catches a glimpse of his ex-wife in his bathrobe, and he follows her, and he's like, what are you doing here? You need to get out of here and get out of that. You know, my fiance's here, and if she sees you, she's going to think that and then the wife, like, pulls her bathrobe a little closer together. She's like, think we what?
Oh my God.
And I was like,
Disney
this
movie.
is...
I don't know, you say that, but Disney movies, especially old Disney movies, they get risque.
Well, yeah, you're right.
I guess so. That is true, but it doesn't make it any less surprising when, like, you get it, I think.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a little 6-year-old in 1961, I think is when this movie came out, and you're sitting in the movie theater with your parents. You paid 12 cents for a ticket, and you're like, oh boy, sure am excited to see this new Walt Disney picture. And you're sitting there with your parents, and then that scene happens, and your parents are like, this is ungodly. We need to leave the theater right now.
Well, I guess if they didn't leave yet, maybe they will next, because then Mom and Dad start yelling at each other, like, a lot. And then he's like, what are you doing here? You need to go. You need to get. What do you think you're doing? What if daughter sees you? And then the two girls are standing there, and they're like, Dad, if you just let her finish, she can explain why she's here. Why are the girls seeing this? Anyway, they don't really stop arguing that much. But then the mom is like, girls, why don't you go on upstairs? And then he's back on her needing to get out of the bathrobe. So he takes her arm and he, like, pulls her a bit, like, come on, we need to get you changed. And she's like, don't you lay a hand on me. And then she goes to punch him and he's like, hey, don't you start any of that again. And she's like, well, keep your hands off me. And then he doesn't keep his hands off her. And then because, like, she sort of, like, starts swinging and he, like, grabs her arms to, like, keep her in place, kind of. But then she elbows his stomach, and then while he's like winded back, then she punches him in the face, and he has a black eye the rest of the movie.
Okay, but this is what passed for like slapstick, like marital comedy in the 60s.
Did healthy marriages
but you don't need
not
to get back
exist
together
in 1961? I have like sunken like into my seat. I'm just like exhausted hearing that exchange.
Now I understand that, product of your time, and with both movies, I like them. I don't think they're bad movies. All I'm saying is, if you're at a restaurant with these two people, you're not thinking, well, they're a match made in heaven. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get the police involved.
911, hello. I'm witnessing a domestic here. Can you please come and help?
And here's something I took note of, just, so we could have like a little bit more of why this whole black eye for the rest of the movie bugs me. So later, the girls recreate the first date, and it's cute, and they sing a song for them. But when they're both coming, they're like...
Yeah, that's the only thing I know from the movie. Yeah. Literally just that part. Because Hallie, like, she sings it in the elevator for like a second, and the movie makers were like, we're so clever adding this little reference.
They really were, though. They really did a good homage to the original.
Like, okay, that's okay.
Kept out the abuse that wouldn't fly.
You know what? I'm glad they didn't make their marriage horribly abusive like they did in the original. They probably watched that and were like, ooh, no. Hairdryer.
Or they tried and someone was like, maybe not.
They're like, ooh, no.
Let's rewrite.
How about we don't do that?
Because it is interesting, because it does follow everything like pretty closely, except for like some minor tweaks for like the modern age and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But so they're coming to this date, and then first like, and the mom like looks at him, and he's like still like only has one eye open because she punched it, and then she says, "Ooh, what happened? Step on a rake?" And she sits down, and I'm like, you can't okay, like, whatever. You punched me, I guess. But now you can't, like, tease me because you abused me.
Yeah. Imagine if it were the other way around. Right? This movie would not have come out. Actually, you know what? Considering the time, this movie would have come out if it was the other way around.
Well, I guess that's what I was thinking. It's, like, weird because, like, I feel like part of the... I guess that's why it's even sadder to me that this is, like, the joke, because I feel like in real life, there's, like, some, like, awful couple that's like, I guess that'd be the other way around with us, huh?
Like, I'm gonna say this. As much as I'm like, men are trash and I hate them, there are some okay ones. Some are okay. Any boys that are listening to this right now, if your girlfriend beats you up, leave her, dump her. If you're looking for a sign, this is it. Dump her, you deserve better.
Especially just getting real for a moment, especially because trying to go to the police as a male who's being abused is so hard. Mm-hmm. Because they're often not believed. Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna say the police are awful. I'm not saying that. But you know... I'm just saying.
Okay.
Let's not make this political. That's what my channel's for.
Yeah.
Just kidding. My videos are not political.
Not yet.
Not yet. Stay tuned, everybody. Quarantine's really getting to me.
Link to Carina's channels in the description.
Marxism, but it's easy to understand.
Oh, that'll be your next animatic.
There we go. I just draw Karl Marx, but like in a cute way.
Yeah. So, also, it's kind of weird, like, with this couple. Like, okay, so we fight all the time. But then in the end, it's like, in both movies, it doesn't seem like they really resolve any of their issues or really even address what their issues were. Like in the 60s when they have this talk, And the dad basically says, honestly, we probably shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. We were fighting all the time. And then the mom was like offended, like, but we had good times. And I'm like, honestly, that's like a really woke statement that I don't think anyone noticed.
That's what abusers say when, like, the person that they're, like, abusing is like, I'm leaving you because you're awful to me. Yeah, but we had good times. So what? So what? Yeah. Sure, 10% of the time you, like, treated me decently, but the rest of the time you were awful and I hated it. I'm getting out of here. Goodbye.
It was also, yeah, because, like, he says, because, like, he's like, you and your temper, and she's like, oh, so it was all me. He's like, no, like, I definitely played my part in it too. I just, like, looking back, like, I think now, like, we have to figure out what to do with the girls, but, like, ultimately we were better apart.
Why do we hate Vicky like, so much? This mother seems awful.
And, like, and this is one thing too, like, maybe this is just because Natasha Richardson is just such a charming person. Because technically she does the same things minus the abuse, that the 60s mom does. But, like, she doesn't seem nearly as petty. So, like, the camping trip. That still happens in the 60s one.
It's very petty what she does.
And the twins do their little thing where they're like, you don't get to know who we are until you both go camping with us.
Which, then, like, that goes back to what terrible parents they are. 'Cause, like,
they
you can't tell. Come on.
Come on. You raised us.
Yeah. Because, like, I understand that, like, them together, like, you only know one well, but can't you just pick out that one?
Yeah.
Because in both, they literally, he looks at them and he's like, you're my daughter.
Especially,
and then she's...
Can we just talk about how, like, yes, they're identical twins, but how much environment plays into, even, like, appearance. Environment plays into your appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe one has more of a tan than another. Maybe someone has a scar that the other one doesn't. Like, yeah. Come on.
Like, ooh, yeah, that just made me think of, like, It Takes Two with the Olsen twins, where there's this big reveal where it's like, I'm not Amanda. Look at this scar I have on my foot. Look at the scar I have on the back of my neck, because I'm a hip young teen. I'm not a teen. I'm literally 8 years old who grew up in the Bronx, and I'm an orphan. That we should talk about that movie, too, because that movie is absolutely excellent.
Well, next month we should have a Olsen twin month. We just need to watch It Takes Two and New York Minute, but
and that's it.
It'll still work. But yeah, so then then Vicky is like, well, I don't feel comfortable with you going up camping with your ex-wife.
Yeah, fair.
And then the wife is like, sure, well, I'll go. And then she's like, actually, I'm just gonna hang around my ex-husband's house and lounge by the lake all day. You have fun in the woods, loser.
I just want to comment. I have the 1961 version with the Wikipedia page open. Mm-hmm. And the way they demonize Vicky just in the article it's crazy to me, because they're like the girls recreate their parents' first date, blah blah blah. They trick them into going into the camping trip, and then it's like Vicky is furious, and I'm like, why? I mean, yeah,
Vicky is
why
fuming.
shouldn't she be?
That was something that was really weird. Like, we didn't really talk about it much in the third part, but let's bring it back. Let's go to 98 when we slid this grown woman out into a lake to wake up and drown.
This was the original.
Let's traumatize this woman with, like, lizards that she obviously hates, and just, like, put one in her hair and have it crawl into her mouth. That scene has traumatized me as a young child, and I was scared of lizards for the longest time. And I'm like, ooh, yucky, don't like them. Now I love lizards.
What they did in the 60s? In the 60s version, they put honey on her feet somehow without waking her up, so that bear cubs would lick it off. Which, not only is that dangerous for the person, that's endangering your whole campsite.
Attempted murder.
Yeah, another bears.
Oh my god, and they use honey in the 1998 scene where they're in the cabin. Wow, movie makers, you really did a good job playing homage.
But, like, yeah, so then this woman, like, okay, she made, like, one comment that has not been proven to be true that I'm gonna ship y'all off to boarding school. Which she didn't even say to them. It was just, like, and when I was a kid watching it, I took her seriously, but growing up, like, she's not gonna send them to boarding school. She just wasn't going to.
Also, like, shoot, that's not entirely her decision to make.
Yeah, so if you get to boarding school, that's because your dad was cool with it.
And you know what? You're acting like brats now, so, maybe your dad's going to agree with it. But, parents lie to their kids all the time. That's just a thing that happens. If you're like, my parents don't lie to me, they absolutely do.
So she made one off comment. Other than that, she's been really nice and she's like, look, like, I'm a businesswoman, so I'm not gonna, like, baby you. I'm gonna talk to you like an adult. I tried to be, like, nice for me, but, you didn't take it. I'm marrying your dad because I like him. Get over it. It's just what happens sometimes. Stepmom. I'm sorry. Like, we can get along or we don't have to. No, you're gonna resort to murder. Yes. And then I finally, like, now granted, quick rule of thumb, whether it's right or wrong, here's just a quick rule of advice. Whoever throws out the ultimatum always loses. Because the person, when they're under pressure in the default, is like, well, you know what? I'll just choose the person who didn't make me choose anything. That's easier. And that's pretty much what always happens. So when she said mirror them, no one thought she was staying, because also what kind of monster would be like, actually, you're right.
I like you more no, but that makes sense, though, because obviously he's a terrible decision maker. Getting with the children's mother in the first place when she is a lunatic. Second, just being like, we'll just, like, split them up and have, like, a good time separately. He can't make decisions.
I'm fine just never seeing my other daughter again.
Like, I'm fine with not seeing either of them. You know what? They're just kind of inconvenient now.
Like, and, that's something else, too, that was interesting in both how poorly the dad's thing was. Because he goes to the daughter in both, and he's like, so, what do you think about this woman that you just met? And they're like, I don't know.
She's got nice teeth and good hair.
And then he says, and then the daughter wrongfully assumes that he's going to adopt this grown woman.
I loved that.
Which in the 98 one, it definitely seemed more like she knew that wasn't the case. But even though in both, I'm pretty sure she knew that wasn't the case. But in the 60s one, I really thought she thought that was what was happening. And I was like, oh,
you're going to adopt Meredith.
Really thought that.
What? No, you idiot child.
This grown woman
like
needs
she's
a father.
Like, but then Hallie or Annie, whichever one it is, she's seen them, like, doing, like, a little smooch, and then she's like, oh, you're gonna adopt her. I'm like, ew, disgusting.
But then my issue is, if your daughter's opinion of this woman is so important to you, like, I couldn't possibly marry this woman if my daughter doesn't like this woman. Why are you already engaged? Why can't you wait till after camp to be like, look, like, Meredith, I really like you. Like, I really like you. But my daughter's important to me, so before we get any further in this, we all need to start spending some time together so she can get used to you. I've never had a serious girlfriend around her before. I don't think she'll take it well. Just gonna be honest. She's a little into the hijinks. Who knows
his dad's an awful decision maker. I don't know how he's managed to, like, keep his vineyard for this long, because he'd be making the most risky business decisions ever made.
Well, Chessie's calling the shots behind the scenes.
I wish this movie was about her. Check that off on your deep dish bingo. This movie should have been about.
Yes.
Just Chessie raising the girls. That would have been such a nice, wholesome movie.
And then finding... Our parents were never involved in our lives, but we had Chessie. We're going to help her find love with this random butler.
And then it's about, like, her trying to get the butler, like, the two girls trying to get the butler to, like, propose to her. That'd be cute. That'd be a nice movie.
Oh my god, that actually would be really cute because then it's like, I think that'd be so sweet because then it's like, oh yeah.
And then they could be adopted by this new couple and it could still be called The Parent
And then they can adopt Meredith.
They trapped them into becoming their parents.
It ends with like this big mic drop moment where Jesse and the butler take their respective twins and they're like, you know what? Well, you were out here doing you. We've been out here raising your kids.
Yeah.
We're keeping them. And then that leads to the sequel where they're on the lam just trying to be a happy family.
You know what? You basically
together.
did just describe It Takes Two with like her adopting Amanda in the end and then all that stuff. Okay, just really quick before we keep talking about this movie. I just really like Amanda's social worker in It Takes Two because she's really sweet. She's like, Amanda, listen, I know like you've had a really awful upbringing living in this orphanage. That sucks. And I know nobody wants to be your parent. That really sucks. But you know what? I'm here for you. That's a good social worker. I'm like, yes, queen. And then she's like, I want to adopt her because I love her. Nobody else cares about her the way I do. I'm like, yes, social worker. We need more social workers like you. And that's my 2 cents. This is from the perspective of a social work student, so my opinion of her is a little biased. That being said, though, I am also very critical of modern social work and past social work because we don't have time to get into that. That's what my channel's for. Go subscribe. No, it's garbage.
Okay.
So speaking of social work, so in the 60s, I don't remember this happening in the 90s one. I don't think it would have gone over the same way.
Oh,
but
no.
In the 60s one, Vicky slaps one of the twins,
Oh,
right?
wait.
Yeah.
On the camping
yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
I think that's a little more than
So
social
that's
worker. I
like
think
what-
that's a 911 call.
Yeah. So, like, already,
No.
that's bad enough if you were the parent, right? Like, that's horrible.
This-
But
Yeah, the
she's
60s
not
is
even
already
related
like-
to her.
This is a crime.
So, I mean, luckily, the dad is like, whoa.
I think
Like,
we're done.
At least he's not like...
Yeah.
So...
I'm not. Yeah.
But-
It's. Oh, yeah.
But it sets it up. Of course, they have to have that scene to be like, see, she really was bad. She really did hate kids.
No, she just hated these
Yeah.
kids because they were tormenting her
And-
for weeks
Yeah,
on
I mean,
end.
it happens at the end of the camping trip. So after
Like-
she was put through all this torture by them.
After she was almost
But-
murdered by bears.
Not saying that makes it right or
Don't hit your
justifies
kids.
it.
Don't hit other people's
Just
kids.
context.
I guess that is the thing. I was trying to figure out how to word it because, like, obviously, don't hit kids, especially don't hit not your kids.
Just don't do it. It's
Like,
not gonna go over
don't
well
do
for
it.
No,
you.
it's not worth it. But, like, in the context of this movie, where, like, everybody is literally hitting everybody, it just seems like kind of like tit for tat. Like, you almost tried to get me eaten by bears. I slapped you.
Listen, I'm not gonna say these kids
Written up-
deserved it, but they were being little
No.
turds the whole time.
So
I guess I think the way to justify fighting in any stance is like if we both fight, it's okay.
Okay,
then
so
it's just a
here's
spar.
my issue with how the movie handled it. So that happens.
Okay.
Obviously bad. Obviously the dad is like, go, I don't want to see you
Mm-hmm.
anymore. But then later, the twins apologize. We're sorry for what we did to Vicky. Oh, don't worry about it. Like, they're forgiven. And I feel like because they turned her into this, like, child abuser
Yeah.
right at the end, that they're like, it's okay. She was an awful person.
Well-
like, no, that's still not okay.
In the 98 version though, when they like get back and the mom is like, how was the camping trip? They're like, well, we did kind of ruin dad's potential marriage and we are grounded now. So like there were some consequences, but like not really that much because they're just playing cards up in their room like, okay, dad, have fun in the basement with mom. See ya.
Yeah, I mean, it was really weird, like, because, and it sort of just set the tone, like, I think, for a lot of movies, whenever there's, like, a potential step-parent, like, it's just open season on them,
Yeah.
because, like, if they can't take it, you can't marry them, but, like, No.
Just don't be mean to your step-parent or potential step-parent, because they already have like a hard enough time as it is trying to impress your stupid, almost said a naughty word, but this is a family channel. But don't be mean to your step-parent, okay?
Like, just, how about, like, rule 27. Just give everybody a fair chance.
That's a good rule.
Don't set anybody up for failure. Just see how it plays out.
Let them fail on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Although if your step-parent is being absolutely terrible to you, you should absolutely tell your not step-parent or guardian that, like, hey, this person being really bad, you should tell them. And if your parent is a good parent, they will believe you. And if they are not a good parent and they don't believe you, tell somebody that you trust and is responsible enough to contact the appropriate person.
Right. So any closing Parent Trap thoughts?
Everything is
Yeah.
Okay.
all of the characters are terrible, I think.
Except for
especially in the 60s
except for
version.
Chessie.
Except for Chessie.
She's best girl.
Yeah, and like
And
the
her
help
lover.
doesn't really get like a big enough mention.
Oh yeah,
either.
for sure.
Also, you know who I forgot to talk about in like the 98 version? I love Grandpa.
Grandpa's great.
He was a good boy.
Grandpa's really nice.
I feel like we got to explore more of those dynamics more in the 98 one. Like, like the 60s one, we didn't really get to like know them.
They're just kind
I
of
feel like I know like personality traits of Jesse, Butler, and Grandpa. So, that being said, thank you guys. We had a lot of fun here talking about the Parent Trap. And thank you to all you guys for listening. And remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.